The Lord of the Rings of Power showrunner, accuses show's critics of being patently evil. Dun dun dun! Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to another GNRO MiniCast. I'm happy to be able to provide these to you finally, although the regularness of it I'm not sure about, but we'll figure that out as we go along. Once again, let's get right into it with this news story that, even though is technically a week old, I kind of want to get into because some people have been asking me about the Rings of Power. For the record, haven't been reading any of it or watching any of it, so I have been enjoying some knocking videos about it, but that's been about it. So once again, this article is being brought to us by Bounding into Comics with author John F. Trent. Prime Video, Amazon Studios, and the Lord of the Rings of Power showrunners participated in one of the most obvious damage control pieces in the history of media by doubling down on their offensive and vile rhetoric by calling critics of the show patently evil. If I'm patently evil because I don't like what you have done, I will gladly pick that up and wear it as a badge of honor. I really will. Instead of working with Vanity Fair as they did in February with when they initially attacked Tolkien fans, this time Prime Video and Amazon worked with The Hollywood Reporter. If you remember, in February, Prime Video's Hatchet Men of Anthony Breznican and Joanna Robinson derided Tolkien fans, describing them as trolls. The two wrote, when Amazon released photos of its multicultural cast, even without character names or plot details, the studio endured a reflexive attack from the trolls. The anonymous online kind. Wait, trolls exist in the Lord of the Rings? Racist? No, I'm kidding. I mean, trolls do actually exist in the Lord of the Rings, but you're still a racist. So there you go. The two then cited the Equality and Diversity Officer for the University of Glasgow Center for Fantasy and the fantastic Marina Rios Maldonado, who has basically been proven as not a Tolkien fan, not a Tolkien scholar, and doesn't know what the F she's talking about. Is a radical political act. Thank you, John F. Trent. Is a radical political activist who is interested in ethics, feminist theory, and in counting the other in Tolkien. But Vanity Fair painted her as a Tolkien scholar to attack fans and ultimately was disproven. Maldonado did what Prime Video and Vanity Fair wanted. She disparaged fans, telling them obviously there was going to be push and backlash, but the question is from whom? Who are these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea that an elf is black or Latino or Asian? Because they're not! Ultimately, they are not. They are literally described in the books as fair-skinned. I know that you don't like that, what that means, but let me just translate for you. They're white. I'm sorry, but Tolkien has done his job. You failed to do so. Since then, Prime Video has deployed numerous media tactics to attack Tolkien fans. They used Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Dominic Monaghan, and Billy Boyd as props to denounce fans criticizing the show, which, by the way, you guys are going to regret that 10 years from now when you are begging to have people attached to your current projects and nobody comes running. All right? And I love all four of them. I honest to God do. For what they were able to do in the Lord of the Rings films. But you'll notice Peter Jackson didn't touch any of this. He was like, I'm 20 feet away from this shit. I ain't touching it at all. They offered to let him direct an episode or two. And he basically said, nope, I'm done. And I think it was more than just, I'm exhausted. I did the Hobbit films. I also did the Lord of the Rings films. I'm just done with this entirely. No, I think he also saw the writing on the wall and he knew what was going to happen to them. So ultimately, yeah, Wood posed with Monaghan and Boyd wearing shirts with a number of different types of ears and phrase, you are all welcome here. Yeah, bullshit. I'm pretty sure they're going to regret that 10 years from now. And there's the Aston tweet. Let's see. Most notably, the official Twitter account for the Rings of Power issued a statement accusing fans of racism using the same, you are all welcome here. Sorry, let me get my PR voice out here for a second. We, the cast of the Rings of Power, stand together in absolute solidarity and against the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. We refuse to ignore it or tolerate it. Proof, please. Proof, please. Proof that they did that. Because everything that I've seen has been honest to God criticism of your shitty ass show and your shitty ass acting. I'm just saying, that's all I've seen. If you want to show to me that there's actually been legit racists, I'll be happy to denounce them. But until then, I'm sorry, I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. J.R.R. Tolkien created a world in which, by definition, is multicultural. Yes, and you have completely ignored that. A world in which free peoples from different races and cultures join together and are still racist towards each other, might I add, in fellowship to defeat the forces of evil. Really? Are they doing that? Because from what I understand, the real villain just hasn't really shown himself yet. Or herself. I'm pretty sure you totally gender bend Sauron. Rings of Power reflects that our world has never been all white. Yes. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Oh, this is so stupid. Multicultural, a world in which free peoples from different races and cultures join together in a fellowship to defeat the force. Rings of Power reflects that our world has never been all white. Fantasy has never been all white. Middle Earth is not all white. There's a lot of it that is. There's a lot of it. Yes, you're right. There are other cultures within Tolkien's universe, and they are showcased. And you're not showcasing any of them. You decided to rewrite history the way you wanted it. Oh yeah, and by the way, you were able to do that because you didn't have the rights to any of this at all. And I love the fact that so many people ignored this concept. They openly admitted they didn't have the rights to the Silmarillion. They didn't have the rights to the Untold Tales. They had nothing. And then immediately went on the tirade about how racist and how hateful J.R.R. Tolkien is. Kiss the ring, bitch! You wanted his property because you didn't want to do the work yourself. You didn't want to do all the hard work that he did to create this universe that you now want to bastardize. You didn't want to do that yourself. That's ultimately what's coming out of this. Finally, all our love and fellowship go out to the fans supporting us, especially fans of color who are themselves being attacked. Again, proof. Being attacked simply for existing in this fandom. Proof! Added the series production team. We see you, your bravery and endless creativity. Your cosplays, fan cams, fan art, and insight makes this community a richer place and reminds us of our purpose. Yeah, constantly failing and making a literal billion-dollar boondoggle out of Amazon. Or at least this project, and then making Amazon look like an idiot. Yes, they concluded you're an integral part of the Lord of the Rings family. No, you're not, because you were too busy kicking out the Lord of the Rings family. I have no problem saying that. There have been numerous other stunts employees accusing the fans of being racist. Oh yeah, by the way, I also love the fact that a lot of people are talking about this, and it stopped for a while, that Amazon was getting rid of negative reviews. Almost like you can't handle criticism or something. There have been numerous other stunts employees accusing the fans of being racist. None of it anywhere near the truth, and most of it is a deflection from the poor product that Prime Video was advertising and has thus far delivered. A product that is far from anything Tolkien wrote about, the Second Age, in the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, and the history of Middle-earth. Again, they don't have the rights. So it's not an adaptation. It's their creepy little fanfic. Not to mention the showrunners also admitted they did not have the legal rights to use on the books. Thank you, John F. Trent. Let's see. Now, showrunner J.D. Payne has taken the attacks on fans to the next level. In this article from The Hollywood Reporter, Payne tells him the spirit of Tolkien is about disparate peoples who don't trust one another and look different from one another, finding common ground in friendship and accomplishing big things. And yet, strangely, Peter Jackson did it better than you are. He adds that the spirit that we tried to insulate, okay, I think that's spelled wrong, but we tried to insulate into every single comma and period in the show. I'm sure you have. That's this aspiration, that this aspiration would be offensive to people and enrage them. It's very hard for us to understand. Well, you aren't listening, so that's why it's hard to understand. You're not listening to the people that are actual fans of Tolkien. What are they protecting? I don't see how people who are saying these things think that they are fighting for good. It's not about that. Oh, good fucking God. This is just another fucking tactic to demonize people. That's all it is, and they should be ashamed of themselves for doing so. J.D. Payne, you should be fucking ashamed for doing that. You should be ashamed of yourself for doing that. Sorry. There's a line in the episode 7 where Galadriel says every war is fought from without and within. Yes, we're going to go ahead and take examples from Manladriel, who already is a bastardization of a really great character. Yes, let's go ahead and take that from Manladriel. Even if you're fighting for something you think is good, if you do something worse than that fight, then you become evil. Wizard's first rule: people are stupid. It's ultimately like you're quoting you're quoting Tolkien, but really you're quoting your own fucking script. I'm quoting Terry Goodkind, and frankly, he did it better than you. I don't see how people who are saying that these things think they are fighting for good. It's patently evil. It's only evil because you're labeling it as such. If you could actually, honest to God, take criticism and be able to properly apply it, then we'd have a lot more respect for you. But ultimately, through your own words, JD Payne, you are showing you aren't capable of anything like that, and therefore should get out of the kitchen. Okay? If your skin isn't thick enough, if you can't take the heat, get out of the damn kitchen. First off, Payne's assertion is a patent lie that he sugarcoats with his own fake platitudes in order to justify the horrific product he has created. Thank you! One only needs to look at how the first episode ends and Galadriel's rejection of the equivalent of heaven to realize the evil that lies underneath the Lord of the Rings of Power. Yes, and from what I understand, the sea has had many things to say to Manladriel or Guyladriel, whatever you want to go with. Not only does she reject heaven, but a memory from her now dead brother telling her we cannot know which lights to follow until we have touched the darkness implies the heaven she rejects is actually evil. Oh my God, did they actually say that? Oh my God, that is repulsive. That is absolutely repulsive and also anti-Tolkien. Literally, they are supposed to be going to the equivalent of heaven, and you're basically now painting it as hell? Oh, wow, you are so far off the mark. Payne's own director also admits the show does not embrace this idea of friendship. Wayne Chi Yip derailed that a scene in episode 5, Partings, specifically tried to show that Galadriel was entrapping and manipulating Halbrand to do her bidding. Oh, really? Wait, she's not pure? She's not the lady that we all know she is. Nah, this is not Galadriel. Gee, I wonder why she's not acting like Galadriel. It's because she isn't. He explained what Aaron, my cinematographer, and I wanted to do was create this sense of entrapment. The scene starts with Galadriel finding Halbrand at the end of the day in the blacksmiths, and she feels she has the upper hand because of information that she's found out about the mark that Halbrand wears around his neck. Oh my God, Galadriel was blackmailing. Oh yeah, this is not that character, and you understand nothing about what you're trying to create. This is surely the spirit of Tolkien that Payne is talking about, right? So much friendship. Again, Payne's a liar. Even if we imagine that Payne isn't lying, he then tries to paint himself as the victim, as all Hollywood types are now inclined to do, especially when their blatant lies are called out for what they are. He's the one who's being oppressed by the people rightfully calling him out after he took a butcher's axe to Tolkien's Legendarium, emptied the guts, and then filled it with cheap plastic from China, and then proceeded to sell the now rotting and plastic-filled corpse as the real Legendarium. Wow, shots fired, John F. Trent. I love what you're spouting right now. People are protecting Tolkien's true work. That answer is pretty obvious. As an example, that's why critics, including this writer, routinely criticize the depiction of Galadriel as everything contrary to how Tolkien not only wrote her, but how he wrote about her in his numerous letters. His whole assertion about the spirit of Tolkien is in contrast to what Tolkien wrote about the Second Age in letter 131 to Milton Waldman. So we're actually going to go into this. I'm not even going to try and do a Tolkien accent, even though I probably could if I had all my teeth here. Tolkien detailed, the three main themes are thus the delaying elves that lingered in Middle-earth, Sauron's growth to a new Dark Lord, Master and God of Men, and Numenor Atlantis. They are dealt with analytically and in two tales or accounts, The Rings of Power and The Downfall of Numenor. Both are essentially background to The Hobbit and its sequel. He went on to elaborate. In the first, we see a sort of second fall, or at least error, of the elves. There was nothing wrong, essentially, in their lingering against counsel, still sadly with the mortal lands of their old heroic deeds, but they wanted to have their cake without eating it. They wanted the peace and bliss and perfect memory of the West, and yet to remain on the ordinary earth where their prestige as the highest people above wild elves, dwarves, and men was greater than at the bottom of the hierarchy of Valinor, which Valinor is the heaven that she supposedly rejected. And frankly, Galadriel wouldn't do that. Then discussing the fall of Numenor token details, the downfall is partly the result of an inner weakness in men. Consequent, if you will, upon the first fall, unrecorded in these tales, repented but not finally healed. Reward on earth is more dangerous for men than punishment. The fall is achieved by the cunning of Sauron in exploiting their weakness. Its central theme is, inevitably I think, in a story of men, a ban or prohibition. Yeah, there's way more to it than this, but this essentially is covering what he's basically trying to say, because that's exactly what Numenor was. It was yet another highlighting of the weakness of men. Hence why you had the concept, if you guys have read into Tolkien lore, about Black Numenorians are the ones that supported Sauron's, the man that Sauron supported, which was Morgoth. So it is inherently supposed to be the weaknesses of men, but I love the fact that apparently, according to, Tolkien's right here. Like, the elves love Valinor, and they would never reject it, and neither would Galadriel, of all people, but okay. Neither would the Lady of Light. The most vile thing that Payne does is he tries to turn Tolkien's own writings against Tolkien's defenders, and then proceeds to call the defenders patently evil. In letter 81 to Christopher Tolkien, Tolkien wrote, "You can't fight the enemy with his own ring without turning it into an enemy. But unfortunately, Gandalf's wisdom seems long ago to have passed with him into the true West." Tolkien also discussed this theme in letter 131 to Milton Waldman when he wrote, "The enemy in successive forms is always naturally concerned with sheer domination, and so the Lord of Magic and Machines. But the problem that this frightful evil can and does arise from an apparently good root, the desire to benefit the world and others, speedily and according to the benefactor's own plans, is a recurring motive." I love it when Tolkien schools people, I really do. What critics of the Rings of Power are doing is not evil. Wanting this adaptation to be true to Tolkien's original works is not wrong. What is wrong, what is evil, is painting people who want an honest and true adaptation as patently evil. And he's right in that regard. What J.D. Payne and others on the cast are basically trying to do, what the original Lord of the Rings cast are doing because Hollywood told them to, is painting the people who look up to Tolkien and have learned the lessons that Tolkien wanted people to learn. You are calling them patently evil. Good job. Nice job breaking it, heroes. As the Catholicism of the Catholic Church says, truth or truthfulness is the virtue which consists in showing oneself true in deeds and truthful in words, and in guarding against duplicity, dissimulation, and hypocrisy, which Hollywood has got no short supply of. Payne has not shown himself true in his deeds or his words. He dissimulates every chance he gets, and is clearly being duplicitous in his attack on Tolkien fans. What do you think of Payne? So ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and give my opinion on this one. First of all, congrats to John F. Trent, man. He let it go, and he let it go hard to the Rings of Power creators and to the cast. I really do think he hit a lot of good points. And also, I love the fact that he basically used Tolkien against them, because ultimately, that's what this is. It was supposed to be a Tolkien series that you then brought in the Game of Thrones writers to come in and do, and it ultimately got bastardized into what they wanted it to be. In other words, it's not Lord of the Rings. It's a cheap-ass, it's a $1 billion fanfic. That's what it is. That's what it's always been. And that's what it will continue to be, should there actually be a season 2, which I doubt is even going to happen. So what do you guys think of what both the Rings of Power creators are doing, as well as Tolkien's own words? I would love to be able to see you guys in the comments down below, both on Rumble as well as on YouTube later. And I've obviously got a couple of other stories to be able to get into, so you guys can look forward to that very soon, and I'll talk to you again very soon.